Welcome to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcasts.
More interoperability between public administrations across the EU is key to better serve citizens and businesses and to achieve Europe's digital targets for 2030. And this is exactly the aim of the new Interoperable Europe Act. Want to know more? Stay with us.
Interoperability sounds complicated, but think about it as toy bricks that can be easily exchanged and connected, even if they come in multiple colors and shapes.
Much like with toy bricks, interoperability in the public sector is about allowing public administrations to cooperate and exchange information and IT solutions to ensure the seamless delivery of public services across borders, sectors, and organizational boundaries.
And in our digital world, this is more important than ever. It allows citizens to move freely across the EU, but also goods, services, and capital. Interoperability also allows organizations to cooperate more effectively and facilitates the exchange of information.
So how high does the EU score?
Well, while more and more public services have gone digital, the level of cross-border interoperability remains low. However, one good example of effective interoperability was the creation of the EU Digital COVID Certificate, which allowed us to travel during the pandemic.
But more efforts were needed. So in November 2022, the European Commission proposed to adopt the new Interoperable Europe Act. Now, what is it about?
Essentially, it's about strengthening cross-border interoperability and cooperation in the public sector across the EU. To achieve this, it introduces a framework for cooperation between EU public administrations and an obligation to share digital solutions such as open-source software, guidelines and IT tools to cut red tape and save citizens, businesses, and the public sector itself money and time.
It also introduces mandatory assessments to evaluate the impact of changes in IT systems on EU cross-border interoperability and proposes to set up a free portal that would act as a one-stop shop for interoperability solutions that can be shared by all.
There will also be new innovation and support measures, including regulatory sandboxes for policy experimentation, GovTech projects based on public-private cooperation to test new solutions, and training support. Now, who will run the show?
The Commission proposes a two-layer governance structure, a new Interoperable Europe Board, composed of representatives from EU countries, the European Commission, the Committee of the Regions, and the European Economic and Social Committee would steer the future cooperation framework and adopt the main guidelines. But this board would receive advice and expertise from an Interoperable Europe community, which would bring together a broader set of public and private stakeholders.
Now, what do we all stand to gain from these changes?
There's a lot to be gained from increased interoperability. According to the European Commission, full interoperability implemented at all levels of administration could boost EU GDP by 0.4% and lead to cost savings between 5.5 and 6.3 million euros for citizens and between 5.7 and 19.2 billion euros for businesses dealing with public administrations.
So, how has the proposal been received by stakeholders?
The EU's advisory committees have welcomed the step taken by the European Commission to move towards greater interoperability, but warned about the ecological footprint of some IT solutions and the need to ensure that all citizens have access to high-speed internet in order to benefit from interoperable digital public services. Here's Michael Pais from the European Committee of the Regions.
The objective is to find common digital solutions that improve the lives of European citizens by reducing inequalities and bridging distances. This is what I call digital territorial continuity, which will allow all territories in Europe to be more cohesive.
The European Data Protection Supervisor, Wojciech Wiawrowski, is also concerned about how the removal of technical barriers to information exchange might affect our right to data protection and has asked for the risks to be considered further.
From the data protection point of view, we have to remember that the resources which are used for the administration differ from country to country. They differ also in the way they are used, the purposes for which they were prepared. In this sense, we have to remember what was the original purpose of collecting the data, and what is the one that we want to use either in the general services or in the sandboxes which are created under the new legal acts.
The European Parliament's rapporteur on this file, Ivars Ijabs, wants the new Interoperable Europe portal to be easily accessible and offer free solutions for everyone. He also claims a seat for the Parliament on the new Interoperable Europe board.
Once the European Parliament and the Council have adopted their positions, they can start negotiations on the final wording of this act.
And we'll follow them for you. In the meantime, check out Maria Nystad's full policy brief on the EPRS website or in our app.
This is a European Parliamentary Research Service podcast.
Thanks for listening.